Communicable diseases are infectious diseases that may be transmitted from one organism to another. They usually involve some type of infectious organism, and that organism can enter the person or the animal through direct or indirect contact. There are six major types: viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoan, rickettsia, and parasitic worms. We'll look at each one of those. First, with viruses. Of course, viruses are these unclassified bits of protein. They're thought to be the smallest known living thing. Hard to know whether for sure they're living because viruses really do not eat or anything. They do multiply by using the cell itself and penetrating in it. There are lots of diseases caused by viruses: smallpox, measles, the cold. There's just a few of them. Here we see the virus on the left-hand side is a slide of influenza, the virus that affects the lungs and can cause pneumonia. And to the right we have the tobacco mosaic disease that can enter a tobacco plant and it just destroys their crop. Leaves turn brown, the plant dies. Bacteria. Bacteria comprise the largest group of plant pathogens. We consider them single-celled plants of microscopic size. Some examples that they can cause is tuberculosis, rheumatoid fever, scarlet fever, tetanus, diphtheria, and pneumonia. Here again we have some shapes, different forms of shapes of them, different types of them, and most of them, of course, occur in some colonies. Fungus. These are simple plant-causing diseases such as athlete's foot and ringworm. Here we have a good example of athlete's foot here. This is some extremes. This fungus, of course, they want things to be, of course, dark and moist environment in order for growth. And here we have jock itch, some examples of that. And then ringworm. Yes, ringworm is not a worm, it's caused by a fungus. Then protozoans are single-celled animals of microscopic size. They cause all sorts of diseases. The main disease that's associated with this, we call it dysentery. This is where, of course, you have vomiting and diarrhea. And, of course, the person will dehydrate, the dangers of those. Rickettsia. These are microorganisms carried by parasites. Many times we have ticks or fleas or lice carrying these diseases. Some good examples are typhus, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and Lyme's disease. Here at the bottom you see Lyme's disease tick. They are very small, so you have to really check the body really closely if you're going to see those. And the far right hand bottom lower side you see the bullseye shape that's a bruise that's associated with Lyme disease or someone receiving Lyme's disease. If this does happen on someone, they need to get to the doctor immediately. They need to have it treated before it goes into dormant. If it goes into dormant, then it can cause some serious other issues that could be long term. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is usually a rash that causes it. So like the top right hand side, we see the hand there. Parasitic worms. These are multi-celled animals, usually infecting the digestive tract. We can prevent a lot of these by cooking our food thoroughly. Trichinosis, elephantitis is an example of them. Of course, we have the roundworms to the right here that you can get from an animal licking you in the mouth or face, and also not washing your hands. And then on the far left here is a very extreme case of a tapeworm that was found in a man's digestive tract. This is the world record. This is what the head of a tapeworm would look like. They actually just absorb your nutrients through their skin. They just bury that head in the intestine lining, and the suckers there, they hold on there and suck with the blood, and then they just absorb from then on your nutrients. Here we have the head of a hookworm, and they live in your digestive tract, and they just keep using those teeth and feed off the blood, your blood in there. They'll cause extreme sores and pains along the digestive tract. These are the stages of a communicable disease. The first thing that's going to happen is the infection will enter into your body. When it enters your body, it goes through a period of incubation. During this period of time, you will not know that you're sick. The virus, bacteria, or whatever it is, has to replicate itself several times until it gets to the point it starts affecting you in some way. When it first starts, you feel the effects of it. It's called the prodromal stage. That's kind of like when you go to bed at night and you think, man, I think I'm going to get sick, but you're not really sick. That's the prodromal stages. There's enough of the whatever it is, the organism or the communicable disease in your system, that it is beginning to cause you slight effects. Illness is where you actually really truly have the disease. The manifestation of whatever it is affecting you. From that stage, you could go directly to death. It could weaken your system, or you could have a weakened system, and that could happen. Or we can skip right from prodromal stage to death if your system is really weak. But for the most case, we usually go to illness. Then we usually get some form of treatment, or your system fights it off of it, and we go through what's called recovery. At this stage, there's a lot of things could happen after that. You could go into a relapse. Your system could stop fighting it, or you could stop taking the medication that was helping you because you think you're already well, but you're not. And from relapse, if your system is weak, you could go right straight to death again. Or from relapse, you can again start taking the medication, or your system get healthy again. You could go right into convalescence and recovery again. When you're done with the actual infection, you have three ways that your system could handle it. After it's over with, you could actually have immunity. From that point on, you could never get it again. That example of that would be like chicken pox, or you could recover without immunity, something like gonorrhea. Someone gets the shot for gonorrhea, they recover from gonorrhea, but yet if they have sex with someone that has gonorrhea, they can receive it again. Or they could become a carrier. And that means that they actually don't have the disease on themselves, but they don't feel the effects of the disease, excuse me, but they will pass it on to someone else if they have sex with them. A good example of this is for females. Several of them that have chlamydia won't have any effects of it, yet if someone has sex with them, they will get chlamydia. They are a carrier. The chain of infection, if you looked up above at the circles, this represents the stages that a disease has to go through before it actually establishes itself on a new host. We try to look at this through the medical field and look at ways and places to break this, because we don't want it to establish itself on a new host. So if we looked at pathogen stage, of course, this is all the six major groups of pathogens we talked about. The human reservoir, well, how do we have a human reservoir? Well, we look at the cases of people infected by it, or how many people out there are actually carriers that are asymptomatic, don't have any signs of having it. Or zoonosis, is it caused by an animal, such as rabies is a good example of zoonosis. From there, from the reservoir, we look at the portal of exit. Does it make its way out of the respiratory tract, the gastrointestinal system, the digestive tract, skin or mucus, through your body fluids, either blood or semen? And then we look at how it's transmitted. Can it be transmitted directly from one individual to another? Is it transmitted indirectly by water or food or some other form of vector, say a mosquito or a tick or a flea, or a fomite, things that touch, such as furniture and stuff of this nature? And then we look at the portal of interest. Usually the portal of interest is very similar to the portal of exit. It'll be one of those four categories that it's going to be able to enter the body. The same way it exited, it's going to have to get in one of those ways. And then we have the actual establishment of the disease on a new host, and we want to know, if it does get on the new host, we want them to establish barriers against that disease so that we can't have that happen. Okay, how to break the chain. If we want to break the first two links of the chain, we usually restrict, destroy, or treat someone that has it. For example, if an animal that has rabies, we're going to kill the animal so that it can't pass it on to someone else. If someone has a disease that's very contagious, we may isolate them, restrict them in some way. From human reservoir to portal of exit, we can do some of the same things. Again, we will treat, restrict, and destroy whatever it is that's causing it. Of course, we don't destroy humans. We usually isolate them if they have some highly contagious disease. The portal of exit, well, where the respiratory tract and all that's concerned, the gastrointestinal, the skin, mucus, and body fluids, we usually tell you we got to make some way that it can't go to the other person. So we'll say, hey, we want you to do personal care things like wash your hands. If you're in a hospital, we'll tell you to wear protective clothing, like you'll wear a face mask or gloves. We say there's preventive procedures you can do. We say every time you go, to go to the restroom, wash your hands, or, in the operating room, they have a sterile environment. Nothing else will enter the sterile environment. And then, of course, there's prophylactics for someone having sex using condoms. For how it's transmitted to the portal of entrance, we want to break that chain. We could use sanitation. We could make sure that we all waste in our society goes through a sanitation system. We have pasteurization, where, like for example, with milk, we heat it up and destroy all the microorganisms in it, and then we refrigerate it. We can also reduce contact to the end of it, to whatever it's causing it. If it's a respiratory thing, we have everyone in society during the time frame wear masks as they're out in society, as they did with the bird flu in Asia. And then there's vector control. A lot of societies do this by controlling their mosquito population. They either will have some kind of a truck come through and spray or release a fog to kill the mosquitoes, or they'll have all sorts of policies in place where people can't leave tires with water in them, or tubs in their city environment with water in it where the mosquitoes can harbor. Where the portal of interest and establishment of the disease on a new host, if we want to break it there, usually we try to increase someone's overall health. We do that by encouraging exercise, and making sure that they eat right, their immune system as strong as it could be, and we tell them to decrease all the risk factors that would weaken their immune system. We can also do this through education, as we're doing right now with you, by giving you all these means of helping you understand where you can break a chain of infection. And we do this by encouraging immunization. We do this in schools by making it so that kids can actually they're not supposed to be able to come to school unless they've had their shots or immunizations, and we provide them free through the healthcare facilities if you can't afford them.